minds, but the human heart is not. And the practices that Jesus took part in are still the practices that he uses for our formation today. Following Jesus now, just as in the scriptures, means giving careful attention to the rhythms that form a life rooted in God. But in order to be transformed by him, we must first make room for him in our lives.
I could probably sit down after the bumper because it was theologically rich and powerful, beautiful. It's a new year. I'm excited. I always like new things. I'm kind of a new guy. Get excited about something new. And we do have a new theme. It's called Follow. I don't know if this is hyperbole, but it's what I feel. I believe that if we give ourselves fully to understand what it means to follow Jesus, not believe, not acknowledge, not worship, but to follow, we will wake up a year from now. We will look back a year from now. We will come to realize a year from now that we are a different people. Individually, our families are different. This church is different. We'll have 3 movements throughout the year. The first 3 months, we will talk a lot about being with Jesus, what it means to be with Jesus, to just be with him. Then we'll have Easter in April. Then we'll move into what it means to become like Jesus, to be transformed. In 3 months, just focus on to become like Jesus. Not just be with him, but to become like him. Then we'll have August back to school. Then we'll get into the final movement of 3 months, and we'll look at what it means to do what Jesus did. We will talk a lot and focus our hearts and our prayers upon, let's do what Jesus did. Whatever we see Jesus doing in the Gospels, let's do that. And then we'll celebrate with Christmas with a series called With. And if you're like, you already got Christmas planned? I do, because I know where we're going. I know where God's leading us, and we're going to follow his leading. We're starting out with a sermon series called Sabbath, about Sabbath. It's a month long. We'll look at certain practices of followers of Jesus in his life, and then throughout the early church and throughout history. And the practice of Sabbath has been part of what Christians have done for years, decades, millennia. I mean, I cannot express to you how common Sabbath is, not in Judaism, but in Christianity, and yet it's become less of a priority for the modern day apprentice of Jesus, for the modern day follower of Jesus. If I was to give today's message a title, I would call it the No Huddle Offense. Now, notice the play on words with how we usually hear that phrase. The no huddle offense is what we normally think about. If you're not familiar with football, football is a rough and violent and calorically excruciating sport. The average offensive lineman spends between 5,000 and 7,000 calories per game. The average force of a tackle in the NFL is equivalent to a car wreck at 30 miles an hour. It is a violent and taxing game. You'll see people hit speeds into the 20s as they run. It is such a brutal and strong and hard game. And if you think about the physical expenditure of just an NFL game, of a football game, you can make a case for the huddle, for a time to stop, for a time to rest, for a time to withdraw, for a time to get your hands on your knees, for a time just to breathe and not be in the middle of another play and another play and another play. But then you put on top of it the emotional drain. And you think, oh, come on, these guys are paid millions. Okay, they are. Their careers are short. They deal with significant health injuries. But the reality is that their job is being viewed in real time by millions and millions and millions of people. Imagine your job if somebody followed you with a team of cameramen all around, every angle. Above, there's a zooming eye in the sky. Everything is being watched, and one mistake is being broadcast, and now everybody's on X just letting you have it. I can't believe you did this. This guy, what an idiot. They're lighting your family up. They're lighting your grandma up. I mean, everything is excruciatingly guarded or watched by millions and millions of people. You know what kind of stress that has to produce? You miss a catch and lose the game, and maybe the season, and maybe your career. So much rides on each play in that setting. And so you have to huddle. You have to stop. You have to get the next play. You have to hear from the coach. It's being sent in. I mean, we're talking hundreds of plays have to be memorized by these football players every single game. You got to huddle. Well, someone came up with the no-huddle offense, which is, hey, we'll just keep running it. We'll just keep going, and we'll see how this works. And it's true. It can create an advantage if done right. If your team is in incredible shape, the no-huddle offense is effective. But they soon find out you got to stop. You're going to wear down. You can't keep going like this. But again, this message is not called the no-huddle offense. It's the no-huddle offense. See, there's something about not huddling, about not pausing, about not resting, about not taking a break or taking a knee or taking a moment to get the next play, to evaluate, to just reflect, to just pause. That's offensive to God. When we don't huddle, when we don't rest, when we don't break, it is offensive to God. That's a bold and brash statement to make right out of the gate for 2026, but I believe it scripturally, theologically, it matters. It's true. Now, some people, when I start talking about the Sabbath, when I talk about the Sabbath, which there's a bunch of definitions of the Sabbath, there's some working definition that I could try to give us that maybe we could get around and get on the same page, but hopefully you don't push back too much on it. But just think of a 24-hour break, a 24-hour rhythm of stopping our work and resting and recalibrating and recharging and connecting with the Father, trusting God and trusting that He has finished all the work that really needs to be done. Whatever we're bringing to the table in life, God's already done the big work. We can stop our striving, we can trust, and we can remember that this world is sustained by God and not you and I. So there's kind of a working definition, but a lot of times when I bring up Sabbath, we immediately push back and go, that's the law. That's true. It is seen in Exodus 20 in the giving of the law. Maybe you remember Charlton Heston if you're old like me, with the stone tablets. It is the law. You are right. But we're going to see today that it exists beautifully and scripturally prior to the law in Exodus 20. We're going to see in 2 weeks that it exists in the life of Jesus and the practice and rhythms of Jesus after the law, which Jesus said, I didn't come to abolish the law. I don't know how anybody thought that would be the deal, but I came to fulfill it. I came to live it out. I came to show you what it should look like. And we'll see in the rhythm of the church and throughout history, it being practiced, and it's a big deal. It's an important thing that we get. And if you're asking me, Joel, are you saying that we as Christians, followers of Jesus, should take a 24-hour period to rest from our work and connect with God and delight in His presence? Yes, I am. But way more importantly, way more significant to you and me is not what I'm saying. It's what we see in the Scriptures. So if you have your Bibles, turn to Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2. This is creation stuff. The creation account. This is not Moses, not the Ten Commandments. This is not the law. This is creation. We'll have 3 verses from chapter 2 that describes God actually resting. Now, it's not the word Sabbath. I'll give you that. But it is the concept of rest. So, Genesis 2, 1 through 3, here we go. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. God gives us 7 days. He does something for 6 days, and then on day 7, he does nothing except for something. He creates rest. He creates an example. He creates a model for you and I to follow. But I love the peculiar phrase. He makes the solar system. He makes gravity. He makes creation. He makes beauty. He makes diversity. He makes everything. But there's something about day 7 that's different. What's he call it? Holy. He made it holy. He made it separate and uncommon and not like the other ones. Do you and I have in our 7 days, today's Sunday, go back to last Sunday or Monday, are all the days the same? Do they feel the same? Is our activities the same? Is there anything unique or different about one of those 7 days? It was to God. It wasn't because he was tired. It wasn't because he burned so many calories on the last couple of plays. It was because he wanted to show us the beauty of us remembering that he created. And when you and I work and refuse to rest, it's as if we're saying, hey, God, I know you did some stuff, but I got my stuff to do. I can't take a break, God. That's how important I am. My lawn won't get mowed. My finances won't get met. My stuff won't get done. My job. It's a dangerous place. Now, you could say, well, that's God. That doesn't necessarily, he created Jupiter. Are we supposed to do that, Joel? Okay, push back on it. If you don't think it's important that God calls it holy and that God models it for us, fine. Let's look at Exodus chapter 16. Let's go there. Exodus 16. Now, the law is given in Exodus 20. You don't have to be a mathematician to know that 16 comes before 20. Chronologically, they have left Egypt, been delivered from Egypt, been saved from Egypt. They've crossed the Red Sea. They're now in the space between the Promised Land and Egypt. And God says, hey, I got to help them understand who they are. I got to give them an identity. If they just go straight from prison to Promised Land, there's a problem there. They're not going to have their identity formed. They're not going to be made back into the image of God's people. And so he does something specific and peculiar as he's leading them. Now, at this point, if you were to go back to the start of 16, you're going to see some stupidness. The Israelites are like, we should have just died. We should have just died. They're complaining and grumbling and mad. They're no longer under Pharaoh's thumb. They're no longer slaves. But they still think like that because of the food. There was so much food. We had pots of food. There was a lot of food. And God's like, hey, I want you to know you can trust me. And so he does something peculiar in verse 13 that we'll read about, and we'll continue through 23. That evening, quail came and covered the camp. Now, I'm no hunter, but if the camp is covered, I think I could pull off a shot. I'm not a master marksman, but I think if the camp is covered with quail, even I got a shot at hitting it. and covered the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes, like frost on the ground, appeared on the desert floor. When the Israelites saw this, they said to each other, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. This is a new thing that God does, a different thing that God does, an undone thing like it never been done before. Here we go. Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord commanded. Everyone is to gather as much as they need," not want, need. "Take an omer for each person you have in your tent." So 3 pounds of bread, that's a good chunk of bread. 3 pounds a person, man. That's a decent amount. That's probably more than you need. I'm no dietitian, but 3 pounds of bread probably shouldn't be on the menu every day. But take that much for every person in your tent. The Israelites did what they were told. Some gathered much, some little. And when they measured it by the omer, the ones who gathered much did not have too much. It's interesting. And the ones who gathered little did not have too little. Everyone had gathered just as much as they needed. Sounds like this plan's working pretty good. God's got it figured out. Then Moses said to them, "No one is to keep any of it until morning." Thought it's good to save, Joel. Thought that's a biblical concept. Nope, not here. No one is to keep any of it until morning. However, listen, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell. Like, don't fight God. It's God. You're always going to lose. Think about in your own life, my life. How many times have we said, "I know what God says, but here's what I'm going to do." And when it's opposite, when it's a rebellious spirit, God always comes out and goes, "Didn't that stink? Didn't that end up like I told you?" Nope. Full of maggots and began to smell. So Moses was angry with them. Okay, I could see that. Each morning everyone gathered as much as they needed, and when the sun grew hot, it melted away. It's like disappearing bread. On the 6th day, check this, they gathered twice as much, 2 omers for each person. And the leaders of the community came and reported this to Moses. They're like, hey, it's day 6, they're gathering twice as much. He said to them, "This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow is to be a day of Sabbath-rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. So bake what you want to bake and boil what you want to boil. Save whatever is left and keep until morning." It's different. It's kind of different rules on different days, right? Well, no, just this day, the holy day, the Sabbath. So they saved it until morning as Moses commanded. It did not stink or get maggots in it. This is before the law. This is a function of God's provision prior to God's command. This is not a rule yet. It's not even a regulation. See, God understands that daily gathering builds daily trust. And so God gives this practice, this thing for them to do. It wasn't like God was up there going like doing magic tricks, like, watch, it's going to stink. Maggots, no maggots. Like, it's not that. He's trying to form them an identity. He's trying to remind them of who they were some 400 years earlier before captivity. He's trying to help them see who He created them to be in the relationship that we are to have with Him. Trust, provision. God is God. He is the one. You think, well, what does this have to do with follow? Do you understand if you have no way of getting food other than God giving it, it creates a beautiful dependence. You have to go be with God for God to provide. If you were to leave the camp, it's not like manna covered the earth. It just covered that camp where they were. And I know this church. It's a good church. And I know myself. I'm a decent guy. We love to do stuff for Jesus. We love to do ministry for Jesus. We love to do stuff for God. We love to serve. This is a blue collar, white collar, no collar, beautiful mix of people, but not a lot of arrogance and pride and self-entitlement. That's why I love it. But there's a huge difference, church, between doing stuff for Jesus and just being with Jesus. Now listen, husbands, we do well to maybe unload a dishwasher or pick up a sock. But if all we do is put our head down and go, hey, honey, I can't talk to you right now. I'm doing stuff for you. Hey, honey, I'm working on projects for you. I'm really not going to spend any time with you. No date night this week. I got a lot of stuff to do. I got to do stuff for you. I got to do stuff for you. I got to do stuff for you. Sometimes our wives might just want to be with us. That's sarcasm. That's of course they want connection. Of course they want us to be with them. They want us to sit with them. And they want to sit with us. They don't want to just do stuff for us. But more importantly than even this concept of being independence, think about this. God was setting the Sabbath up. John Mark Comer says it this way, that the Sabbath is a declaration of freedom. You think, well, wait a minute, they're dependent upon God. Sounds like they're back in prison. No, they're not. They're not back in prison. God is showing himself to be so faithful, so reliable, so able to come through that he can literally change the maggot composition of bread between Friday and Saturday. God's so wise that he knows, like the no-huddle offense, we need a break. We need to rest. We need to trust. And on the Sabbath, you couldn't stockpile any other day, but you can stockpile the day before, which we'll get into in week 4 as we talk about what does it mean to prepare for the Sabbath. Yeah, it takes some work to do the Sabbath. If you're going to start to practice that and you're going to literally like go old school or actually biblical and do it, you're going to have to figure some stuff out. Like you got to pick up twice as much. You just can't happen on it. You got to figure it out. And we'll get to that. But right now, I want you to go back into this text and think about the context of it. That the whole Israelite community is no longer in prison. They're not slaves, but they're not at the promised land. And so why is God doing this? Why has he got this little system, this little rhythm of, 6 days this way, 1 day this way, 6 days this way, 1 day this way? Why? Because he knows what you and I forget. That you can be saved and still live enslaved. You can be out of prison but still have a prisoner mindset. And if you and I dare have the audacity to think we do not need God, that we can produce and provide and take care and do things on our own, that stinks. It stinks as much as maggot-infested bread. And I believe, without it even being a law at this point, it's an offense to God. See, manna is this daily miracle that teaches weekly rest. The reason he is setting them up and putting them on the system is to teach them the beauty of what's to come in Exodus 20, which we'll get to next week. Just take a break once a week. I'm gonna train you for it. I'm gonna get you in this rhythm. 6 days gather, 1 day don't. 6 days gather, 1 day don't. 6 days work, 1 day don't. Now I confess right now, I'm just gonna throw it out there. And this is hard. Yesterday I was sitting out in a chair in the middle of my backyard watching the sun go down. It's about 5:15. It was this beautiful, quiet moment. Kim, as she's prone to do, was praying for me in the other room, and she's praying and thinking about me, and she said, Joel, how do you feel about your sermon? Which is always a loaded question. Because if I say great, but I'm not great, then I got some issues. I got to be truthful to my wife. If I say not great, then she begins to think like, what's happened? Where are we going? I said, I feel really good, except for the fact that I refused to practice the Sabbath this week. And I could tell by Kim's reply, she said, okay. When Kim is not wordy, there's a problem. I'll just say it like that. If there's a bunch of exclamation points and adjectives, I know it's fine. But when I get the okay, that was her way of saying, huh? Yeah, that's kind of a problem, right? And so I told her, this has been my break. Now, one of the things we did do well is we rested. But there's a difference between a nap and sleeping in and the Sabbath, connecting with God. There's a difference between huddling up and just catching your breath and getting the next play and hearing some encouragement and spending time with those close to you. There's 3 words for rest in the scriptures. I don't want to go too deep in the time that I have left, but I love the progression. See, we're just talking about Shabbat right now. We're just talking about this practice of Sabbath. Sabbath was a verb before it was a noun. You are to Shabbat. You are to rest. It means to stop, to cease. And there's part of what we should be doing. This is stopping and ceasing. But you can stop working and keep going. You can stop without resting, which is the next word, nuach. If you got something in the back of your throat, you can pronounce it great. Nuach. It's this Hebrew word that means to settle down and be at rest. So not only do you stop, but you settle. When was the last time you and I just intentionally, prayerfully thought like, hey, on this day, it's going to be different than the others. It's going to be holy, uncommon, set apart. I'm going to not just stop the stuff that I usually do, but I'm going to settle. I'm going to be at rest. I'm going to sleep a little more. I might take a nap. I might find a hammock. But the goal and the progression is this menurach. Again, you got to have something in the back of your throat if you want to get that last syllable in Hebrew. The pronunciation's on the center syllable, nu, menucha. It means deep, abiding rest. It's settled delight. Kim and I, the day after Christmas, and I don't talk a lot. I mean, sometimes, I'll tell funny stories and serious stories. But I knew this day was important to her because it was her mother's earthly birthday, not the day that she passed 13 years ago, but it was her mother's earthly birthday. And usually Kim and her sisters meet halfway between Houston and here, and they get together and cry it up and cry. And I don't go to that because I don't like to cry unless I'm preaching, and then it just sneaks up on me, and I hate it. But I knew this would be a time Kim's heart would be raw. I just knew it. Been married a long time. I know that girl. So we went down to Fort Worth to the Drover Hotel. Now you're thinking, oh, that's $1,000 a night. We didn't stay. Hey, you ain't a baller. We just sat out front and got food to go. We got the nachos. They're really good. And we sat there for 4+ hours, and we just looked at each other and rested. Sometimes we weren't even talking. As Kim is prone to do, somebody came up, a single mom with a little kid, just gone through a breakup, and now Kim's changing, contact information and praying over her. So it was some ministry, but it was rest. It was rest. It was 4 hours of pausing. We didn't have to go anywhere. We didn't have to do anything. We were just together. That's the Sabbath. Us and God. Deep, abiding, settled delight. So you can stop without resting, but you cannot rest without stopping. And if I could give you anything, I didn't put it on the slide, I don't know why, but Sabbath, if we just make it about a stopping of work as opposed to what it should be, a return to delight, we've missed it. We've missed it. Now, if you just want to start with a stop, great. That's better than nothing. If you're not even settled, but you're just resting a little bit, you just stopped. I mean, not resting, but you stopped. That's great. But can you get to the place where you're settled, and then can you move to the place where it's delight? You are just with God. Whatever brings you close to God. I would submit to you, the scriptures do a great job of that. I would submit to you, prayer does a great job of that. But even the pause, even the break, even the silence is a beautiful gift from the Lord. Here's the reality. We talk about the no-huddle offense. The offense of Sabbath breaking is not that you worked. Like, that's not the big miss. It's that you acted as if God wouldn't come through. Some of you right now are thinking, I can't take a day off. You don't know my schedule, my demands, what I've got to do. Who's going to do this? What about this? And we act in ignorance and arrogance like God can't come through. We got to gather. We're going to starve. We're going to run out of food. Get some more bread. And it stinks. It's an offense to God because we are acting like he can't come through. I'll tell a quick story. A local businessman came to me one time early on. He had a great business and it was doing well, but corporate told him, it was a franchise, corporate said, hey, you're going to have to take Saturdays off. He was an auto repair. He owned an auto repair shop. He said, Saturday's my biggest day, Joel. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is a problem. If I'm not open on Saturday, I'm going to lose a ton of money. You don't know how much business I do on Saturday. I said, well, sounds like corporate's got it figured out. I mean, they're the ones doing it. You got to do it. He said, would you just pray for me to have some trust? And I said, yeah, I'll pray for you to have some trust. He came to me 6 months later. He said, Joel, I can't understand. This has been the biggest and best year. It's been 4X of what I was prior. It's the most financially profitable year, and I only worked 5 days, not 6 days. And I took and cut the biggest, most packed day, took it away. I can't figure it out. I said, sounds like God can be trusted. He smiled a little bit. He said, yeah, that's what it is. See, Sabbath is not about us avoiding work. It's about us entering trust. Trust. That's a big one. If you make it about a rule, you'll miss it. It wasn't like God, he showed that the bread can handle itself for 2 days. It's not like God made junky bread. Because one day it didn't rot. The other days it did rot. Like, what's up with that? Because he's trying to teach them trust, and he's trying to teach you and I trust. I don't want us to wait for week 4 in the practice of Sabbath before I say this. If you've never done it, it's not a salvation issue. You're not a bad person. You're normal. It's just normal for us to work. Just start small. I realized as I was going over my sermon yesterday afternoon that I had failed to practice fully what I intended to preach. And that's always a problem with me. I'm not going to ever get it perfect, but I want to give it a shot. I want to taste the food before I serve it. But I knew I had an hour from 4:30 to 5:30. We had somewhere to be at 6, but I knew if we stopped working on this project in the backyard at 4:30, I would have an hour to sit with God and rest. And as the sky changed colors, and Kim's new adopted child, Kevin the peacock, came back and started talking to us. And I just sat there with the Lord. It was this beautiful gift. And I want that for you. But way more important than your pastor praying for God to do something different this year, I want us to know what it means to follow Jesus. And the first thing that you got to do is be with him. If you're going to follow somebody, you got to get close and you got to be with him. You just can't watch him from afar. And Jesus is asking, will you just be with me? Just take a break. Yeah, we still got work to do in that backyard. We still got work to do in the church. We still got work to do in our lives. There's no end. It's not going to be impossible because God is the provider. He'll make it work. So take a break from your work, settle, and may the Lord give us delight. Interesting. Well, I'll preach to the people that have never even bowed their knee once to Jesus. They're still in prison. They're still enslaved by their sin. They've never trusted God with their life. If that's you today, online or in-house, I hope that today's the day you wave that flag and go, all right, God, I'm going to trust you with my life. I'm going to give you not just a day, I'm going to give you my life. Admit your sin and confess it and say, God, I need you. I know I need you. I got enough rotten stuff in my life. I got enough stinky stuff. I need you. I'm going to trust you. I'm not going to rebel anymore. I would hope that if you've never done that, today is the day you say yes to Jesus. But for a lot of us, we've been believing in Jesus. And I want us to follow him. And today I want communion to be set apart and different and holy. I want us to go get it and grab it and hold it. And I want us to think, is this supposed to be 30 seconds, Jesus? Am I giving you 30 seconds here? Is it a minute? Just you and God. Just communion, common union. You and God communing. Don't just get it, I got to do it. You ever do that? I do it. I get it. Like, I look over, Kim's praying. I'm like, I get, and I joke. Obviously, I'm praying and speaking to the Lord all the time, but like we just rush in life. It's just fast. It's quick, slow, settle, delight. Let me pray for us. Lord, I pray for this year. I'm so expectant, so ready. I pray that we would follow you. That we would follow you. And the start of that is just to be with you. We just want to be with you, God. Slow us down enough to be with you. Enough to be in your word. Enough to be in conversation. It's just a fancy word we call it prayer, but it's just talking to you, God. And I pray, Father, that we would not just stop working and not just settle. But God, we would delight in your presence. We would trust your provision. We would believe your word. And God, if you rested on the seventh, if you made the seventh day holy, if you gave it to teach and to transform and to form your people prior to making it a rule, I pray that we wouldn't approach it as a rule. But it would be a rhythm. It would be a gift. And we'd start, even if it's an hour, even if we declare, it doesn't have to be on a certain time, a certain day. But man, God, what if we got to where one day a week, we just shut it down and settled and breathed and just delighted in you. I thank you that you delight in us, that you love us, that you're here with us. We just want to be with you. Have your way. May your will be done. Slow us, stop us, settle us. And I pray that you would surprise us with sacred delight. It's through Jesus' rest-giving name I pray for a church that I love. Amen.